The Knight's Tale. Part 1. Stories of old have made it known to us that there was once a duke called Theseus, ruler of Athens, lord and governor. And in his time, so great a conqueror, there was none mightier beneath the sun. And many a rich country he had won. What with his wisdom and his troops of horse, he had subdued the Amazons by force, and all their realm, once known as Scythia, but then called Femini, Hippolyta, their queen, he took to wife, and says the story. He brought her home in solemn pomp and glory. Also her younger sister, Emelye. And thus victorious, and with minstrelsy, I leave this noble duke for Athens bound, with all his host of men-at-arms around. And were it not too long to tell again, I would have fully pictured the campaign, in which his men-at-arms, and he had won those territories from the Amazon, and the great battle that was given then between those women and the Athenian men, or told you how Hippolyta had been besieged and taken, fair courageous queen, and what a feast there was when they were married, and after of the tempest that had harried their homecoming. I pass these over now, having, God knows, a larger field to plow. Weak are my oxen for such mighty stuff. What I have yet to tell is long enough. I won't delay the others of our route. Let every fellow tell his tale about, and see who wins the supper at the inn. Where I left off, let me again begin. This duke I mentioned, ere alighting down, and on the very outskirts of the town, in all felicity and height of pride, became aware, casting an eye aside, that kneeling on the highway, 2 by 2, a company of ladies were in view, all clothed in black, each pair in proper station, behind the other, and such lamentation, and cries they uttered, it was past conceiving the world had ever heard such noise of grieving. Nor did they hold their misery in check, till they grasped bridle at his horse's neck. Who may you be that, at my coming so, perturb my festival with cries of woe? Said Theseus, do you grudge the celebration of these my honors with your lamentation? Who can have injured you, or who offended? And tell me if the matter may be mended, and why it is that you are clothed in black. The eldest of these ladies answered back, fainting a little in such deadly fashion, that but to see and hear her stirred compassion, and said, O sir, whom fortune has made glorious in conquest, and is sending home victorious, we do not grudge your glory and our grief, but rather beg your mercy and relief. Have pity on our sorrowful distress, some drop of pity in your nobleness. On us unhappy women let their fall, for sure there is not one among us all that was not once a duchess or a queen, though wretches now, as may be truly seen. Thanks be to fortune and her treacherous wheel, that suffers no estate on earth to feel. Secure and waiting on your presence, we, here at the shrine of goddess clemency, have watched a fortnight for this very hour. Help us, my lord, it lies within your power. I, wretched queen, that weep aloud my woe, was wife to King Capaneus long ago, that died at Thebes, accursed be the day, and we in our disconsolate array, that make this sorrowful appeal to pity, lost each her husband in that fatal city, during the siege, for so it came to pass. Now old King Creon, oh alas, alas, the lord of Thebes, grown cruel in his age, and filled with foul iniquity and rage, for tyranny and spite, as I have said, does outrage on the bodies of our dead, on all our husbands, for when they were slain, their bodies were dragged out onto the plain, into a heap, and there, as we have learnt, they neither may have burial nor be burnt, but he makes dogs devour them in scorn. At that they all at once began to mourn, and every woman fell upon her face, and cried, have pity, Lord, on our disgrace, and let our sorrow sink into your heart. The Duke, who felt a pang of pity start at what they spoke, dismounted from his steed. He felt his heart about to break indeed, seeing how piteous and disconsolate they were that once had been of high estate. He raised them in his arms and sought to fill their hearts with comfort and with kind good will, and swore on oath that as he was true knight, so far as it should lie within his might, he would take vengeance on this tyrant king, this Creon, till the land of Greece should ring, with how he had encountered him and served the monster with the death he had deserved. Instantly then, and with no more delay, he turned, and with his banners in display, made off for Thebes with all his host beside. For not a step to Athens would he ride, nor take his ease so much as half a day, but marched into the night upon his way. But yet he sent Hippolyta the queen, and Emelye her sister, the serene, on into Athens, where they were to dwell. And off he rode, there is no more to tell. The figure of red Mars with spear and tar, so shone upon his banners white and large, that all the meadows glittered up and down. And close by them his pennon of renown shone rich with gold, emblazoned with that feat, his slaying of the Minotaur in Crete. Thus rode this duke, thus rode this conqueror, and led his flower of chivalry to war, until he came to Thebes, there to alight, in splendor on a chosen field to fight. And, to speak briefly of so great a thing, he conquered Creon there, the Theban king, and slew him manfully, as became a knight. In open battle, put his troops to flight, and by assault captured the city after, and rent it, roof and wall and spar and rafter. And to the ladies he restored again the bones belonging to their husbands slain, to do, as custom was, their obsequies. But it were all too long to speak of these, or of the clamorous complaint and yearning these ladies uttered at the place of burning the bodies, or of all the courtesy that Theseus, noble in his victory, showed to the ladies when they went their way. I would be brief in what I have to say. Now when Duke Theseus worthily had done justice on Creon, and when Thebes was won, that night, camped in the field, he took his rest, having disposed the land as he thought best, crawling for ransack among heaps of slain, and stripping their accoutrements for gain. The pillagers went busily about, after the battle on the field of rout, and so befell among the heaps they found, thrust through with bloody wounds upon the ground, 2 pale young knights there, lying side by side, wearing the self-same arms in blazoned pride. Of these Arcite was the name of one, that of the other knight was Palamon, and they were neither fully quick nor dead. By coat of arms and crest upon the head, the heralds knew, for all the filth and mud, that they were princes of the royal blood. 2 sisters of the house of Thebes had borne them. Out of the heap these pillagers have torn them, and gently carried them to Theseus' tent. And he decreed they should at once be sent to Athens, and gave order they be kept. Perpetual prisoners he would accept. No ransom for them, this was done. And then the noble duke turned homeward with his men, crowned with the laurel of his victory, and there in honor and felicity he lived his life. What more is there to say? And in a tower in grief and anguish lay Arcite and Palamon, beyond all doubt, forever, for no gold could buy them out. Year after year went by, day after day, until one morning, in the month of May, young Emelye, that fairer was of mien, then is the lily on its stalk of green, and fresher in her coloring that strove with early roses in a Maytime grove. I know not which was fairer of the two, ere it was day, as she was wont to do, rose and arrayed her beauty as was right. For May will have no sluggardry at night, season that pricks in every gentle heart, awaking it from sleep, and bids it start, saying, arise, do then observance do. And this made Emelye recall anew the honor due to May, and she arose, her beauties freshly clad, to speak of those. Her yellow hair was braided in a tress, behind her back, a yard in length, I guess, and in the garden at the sun's uprising, hither and thither at her own devising, she wandered gathering flowers, white and red, to make a subtle garland for her head, and like an angel sang a heavenly song. The great grim tower keep, so thick and strong, principal dungeon at the castle's core, where the two knights, of whom I spoke before, and shall again, were shut if you recall, was close adjoining to the garden wall, where Emelye chose her pleasures and adornings. Bright was the sun this loveliest of mornings, and the sad prisoner Palamon had risen, with license from the jailer of the prison, as was his wont, and roamed a chamber high, above the city, whence he could descry the noble buildings and the branching green, where Emelye the radiant and serene went pausing in her walk and roaming on. This sorrowful prisoner, this Palamon, was packing round his chamber to and fro, lamenting to himself in all his woe. Alas, he said, that ever I was born, and so it happened on this May day morn, through a deep window set with many bars, of mighty iron squared with massive spars, he chanced on Emelye to cast his eye. And as he did, he blenched and gave a cry, as though he had been stabbed, and to the heart. And at the cry, Arcite gave a start, and said, "My cousin Palamon, what ails you? How deadly pale you look, your color fails you. Why did you cry? Who can have given offense? For God's love, take things patiently, have sense. Think, we are prisoners and shall always be. Fortune has given us this adversity, some wicked planetary dispensation, some Saturn's trick or evil constellation, has given us this, and heaven, though we had sworn the contrary, so stood when we were born. We must endure it, that's the long and short." And Palamon in answer made retort, "Cousin, believe me, your opinion springs from ignorance and vain imaginings. Imprisonment was not what made me cry. I have been hurt this moment through the eye. Into my heart, it will be death to me, the fairness of the lady that I see, roaming the garden yonder to and fro, is all the cause, and I cried out my woe. Woman or goddess, which, I cannot say. I guess she may be Venus, well she may." He fell upon his knees before this, and prayed, "O Venus, if it be thy will, to be transfigured in this garden thus, before two wretched prisoners like us. O help us to escape, O make us free. Yet, if my fate already is shaped for me, by some eternal word, and I must pine, and die in prison, have pity on our line, and kindred, humbled under tyranny." Now as he spoke, Arcite chanced to see this lady as she roamed there to and fro, and at the sight, her beauty hurt him so, that if his cousin had felt the wound before, Arcite was hurt as much as he, or more. And with a deep and piteous sigh he said, "The freshness of her beauty strikes me dead, hers that I see, roaming in yonder place, unless I gain the mercy of her grace, unless at least I see her day by day. I am but dead, there is no more to say." On hearing this, young Palamon looked grim, and in contempt and anger answered him, "Do you speak this in earnest or in jest?" "No, in good earnest," said Arcite, "the best. So help me God, I mean no jesting now." Then Palamon began to knit his brow. "It's no great honor then," he said, "to you, to prove so false, to be a traitor too. To me, that am your cousin and your brother, both deeply sworn and bound to one another, though we should die in torture for it, never to loose the bond that only death can sever, and when in love, neither to hinder other, nor in what else soever, dearest brother, but truly further me in all I do, as faithfully as I shall further you. This was our oath, and nothing can untie it. And well, I know you dare not now deny it. I trust you with my secrets, make no doubt. Yet you would treacherously go about to love my lady, whom I love and serve, and ever shall, till death cut my heart's nerve. No, false Arcite, that you shall never do. I loved her first, and told my grief to you. As to the brother and the friend that swore to further me, as I have said before, so you are bound in honor as a knight to help me, should it lie within your might. Else you are false, I say, your honor vain." Arcite proudly answered back again, "You shall be judged as false," he said, Not me. And false you are, I tell you utterly. I loved her as a woman before you. What can you say? Just now you hardly knew. If she were girl or goddess from above. Yours is a mystical, a holy love. And mine is love as to a human being. And so I told you at the moment, seeing. You were my cousin and sworn friend, at worst. What do I care? Suppose you loved her first. Haven't you heard the old proverbial saw? Whoever bound a lover by a law? Love is law unto itself, my hat. What earthly man can have more law than that? All man-made law, all positive injunction, is broken every day without compunction. For love, a man must love for all his wit. There's no escape, though he should die for it. Be she a maid, a widow, or a wife. Yet you are little likely, all your life, to stand in grace with her, no more shall I. You know yourself, too well, that here we condemned to prison both of us, no doubt. Perpetually, no ransom buys us out. We're like two dogs in battle on their own. They fought all day, but neither got the bone. There came a kite above them, nothing lost. And while they fought, he took it from them both. And so it is in politics, dear brother. Each for himself alone, there is no other. Love if you want to, I shall love her too. And that is all there is to say or do. We're prisoners and must endure it, man. And each of us must take what chance he can. Great was the strife for many a long spell. Between them, had I but the time to tell. But to the point, it happened that one day. To tell it you as briefly as I may. A certain famous duke, Perotheus, friend and companion of Duke Theseus, since they were little children, came to spend a holiday in Athens with his friend, visiting him for pleasure as of yore. For there was no one living he loved more. His feelings were as tenderly returned. Indeed, they were so fond, as I have learned, that when one died, so ancient authors tell, the other went to seek him down in hell. But that's a tale I have no time to treat. Now this Perotheus knew and loved Arcite, in Theban days of old for many years. And so, at his entreaty it appears, Arcita was awarded his release. Without a ransom, he could go in peace, and was left free to wander where he would. On one condition, be it understood. And the condition, to speak plain, went thus. Agreed between Arcite and Theseus, that if Arcite were ever to be found, even for an hour, in any land or ground, or country of Duke Theseus, day or night, and he were caught, it would to both seem right, that he immediately should lose his head. No other course or remedy instead. Off went Arcite upon the homeward trek. Let him beware, for he has pawned his neck. What misery it cost him to depart. He felt the stroke of death upon his heart. He wept, he wailed, how piteously he cried. And secretly he thought of suicide. He said, alas, the day that gave me birth. Worse than my prison is the endless earth. Now I am doomed eternally to dwell, not in purgatory, but in hell. Alas, that ever I knew Perotheus, for else I had remained with Theseus. Fettered in prison, and without relief, I still had been in bliss, and not in grief, only to see her whom I love and serve, though it were never granted to deserve. Her favor would have been enough for me. "O my dear cousin Palamon," said he, "yours is the victory in this adventure. How blissfully you serve your long indenture. In prison, no, in paradise. How happily has fortune cast her dice. For you have her presence, I the loss. For it is possible, since your paths may cross, and you're a knight, a worthy one and able, that by some chance, for fortune is unstable, you may attain to your desire at last. But I, that am an exile and outcast, barren of grace, and in such deep despair, that neither earth nor water, fire nor air, nor any creature that is made of these, can ever bring me help or do me ease. I must despair and die in my distress. Farewell my life, my joy, my happiness. Alas, why is it people so dispraise God's providence or fortune and her ways? that oft and variously in their scheme includes far better things than they could dream. One man desires to have abundant wealth, which brings about his murder or ill health. Another, freed from prison as he'd willed, comes home, his servants catch him, and he's killed. Infinite are the harms that come this way. We little know the things for which we pray. Our ways are drunkard ways, drunk as a mouse. A drunkard knows quite well he has a house, but how to get there puts him in a dither. And for a drunk the way is slip and slither. Such is our world indeed, and such are we. How eagerly we seek felicity, yet are so often wrong in what we try. Yes, we can all say that, and so can I, in whom the foolish notion had arisen, that if I only could escape from prison, I should be well, in pure beatitude, whereas I am in exile from my good. For since I may not see you, Emelye, I am but dead, and there's no remedy. Now, on the other hand, poor Palamon, when it was told him that Arcite had gone, fell in such grief, the tower where he was kept resounded to his yowling as he wept. The very fetters on his mighty shins shine with his bitter tears as he begins. Alas, Arcite, dear cousin, in our dispute and rivalry, God knows you have the fruit. I see you now in Thebes, our native city, as free as air, with never a thought of pity. For me, you, an astute, determined man, can soon assemble all our folk and clan. For war on Athens, make a sharp advance, and by some treaty or perhaps by chance, she may become your lady and your wife, for whom, needs must, I here shall lose my life. For, in the way of possibility, as you're a prisoner no more, but free, a prince, you have the advantage to engage. In your affair, I perish in a cage, for I must weep and suffer while I live, in all the anguish that a cell can give, and all the torment of my love, O care, that doubles all my suffering and despair. With that he felt the fire of jealousy start, flame in his breast, and catch him by the heart, so madly that he seemed to fade and fail, cold as dead ashes, or his boxwood pale. He cried, O cruel gods, whose government binds all the world to your eternal bent, and writes upon an adamantine table all that your conclave has decreed as stable. What more is man to you than to behold a flock of sheep that cower in the fold? For men are slain as much as other cattle, arrested, thrust in prison, killed in battle, in sickness often and mischance, and fall, alas, too often for no guilt at all. Whereas right rule in your foreknowledge when such torments fall on innocent, helpless men. Yet there is more, for added to my load, I am to pay the duties that are owed to God. For him I am to curb my in all the lusts that cattle may fulfill. For when a beast is dead, he feels no pain, but after death a man must weep again, that living has endured uncounted woe. I have no doubt that it may well be so. I leave the answer for divines to tell, but that there's pain on earth I know too well. I have seen many a serpent, many a thief, bring down the innocent of heart to grief, yet be at large, and take what turn they will. But I lie languishing in prison still. Juno and Saturn in their jealous rage have almost quelled our Theban lineage. Thebes stands in waste, her walls are broken wide, and Venus slays me on the other side, with jealous fears of what Arcite is doing. Now I will turn a little from pursuing Palamon's thoughts and leave him in his cell, for I have something of Arcite to tell. The summer passes, and long winter nights double the miseries and appetites of lover in jail and lover free as air. I cannot tell you which had most to bear. To put it shortly, Palamon the Pale lies there condemned to a perpetual jail, chained up in fetters till his dying breath. Arcite is exiled on pain of death, forever from the long-desired shore, where lives the lady he will see no more. You lovers, here's a question I would offer. Arcite or Palamon, which had most to suffer? The one can see his lady day by day, but he must dwell in prison, locked away. The other's free, the world lies all before. but never shall he see his lady more. Judge as you please between them, you that can. For I'll tell on my tale as I began.